Today's carry. I started the day off with this GEC 25 in Desert Ironwood, and then I did a midday switch to my Spyderco Stretch and HAP 40 steel. Good all around knife. As much as I don't like these backlock types of designs, this one has really grown on me. So that's what I'm carrying today, little midday switched. For now, let's go ahead and roll the intro. Today's video is going to cover disassembling a Strider knife. This specific one is going to be my S&G and Z-Wear. You know, this is one of my favorites here. If I can get that to zoom in. You already saw the video where I sharpened this knife, but now I'm going to disassemble it in one video, and then I am going to reassemble it, including lubricating the knife, in the next. So these are the things that I'm going to use in this video and in the next video. It is a PSD monkey wrench. They no longer make these, but I've used this tool for years. No clue why I saved the bag, but you know, like I talked about in one of my videos, I have way too much packaging. This side, it's a Hinderer tool, and on this side, it's a Strider pivot tool, and the Torx bit takes apart you can use the Torx bit for the handle screws. So that will be the main tool that I use. I will also use my cheap little hex wrench, and I believe that the size I'm going to use is 1/8 of an inch, if I'm not mistaken. Now, I can't remember. Let's try. I believe it's 1/8 of an inch. Yeah, 1/8 of an inch. So those are going to be the two main tools, or the two tools that I use to take the knife apart. Usually I would clean the knife with this before I reassembled and lubricated the knife. However, you can see how much I have, which is basically none. And on top of that, I can't really replace it because it's pretty much sold out everywhere. And the company apparently is going out of business. So instead of using that, I'm going to be using alcohol to clean off the old grease and grime and dirt. So in order to get started, the first thing that I usually do is take the handle screws out. And on the S&G, there are 3 of them. And I'm just going to sit them up here. Because this is a Lego knife, the screws are the same length. If you're taking apart a CC, concealed carry, or dual gunner grip, or if it's one of the new hybrid versions, those screws can be different lengths. So when you put it together, it's not that big of a deal. You'll notice that some of the screws stick out too far. Some of the screws might not catch. You just need to rearrange them. Won't break anything, won't tear anything up. It's a pretty simple process. You're going to stick this side of the spanner tool into the pivot, line it up with these slots. You're going to then take your hex key and you're going to simply take it apart. Now I'm going to move this stuff out of the background. It looks like I'm losing focus. All right. And I usually screw the male portion out using the hex key. And you can see there it's coming apart. The whole knife is. So once I get it here, I'm just going to go ahead and remove it with my finger. And I'm just kind of keeping all the parts over here. This will come off. Be careful not to cut yourself. If these in here, the screws thread into these standoffs, I guess, for lack of a better term, but these actually insert into the G10 side. Sometimes they come out, sometimes they don't. If they do, don't worry about it. You can just pop them back in. These are sticking in there. So that's that. Some Striders have a small washer and a large washer like this does. So you might want to keep track of that. I'm just going to lay them down. Some people keep track of which side of the washer was on the blade and which side wasn't. I used to, but I haven't really noticed that much of a difference. So I'm just going to sit those off to the side over there. So we've got our titanium side, our blade, both of our bushings. Here's the other side of the pivot, and finally the G10 side. So as you can see, very few parts, very easy to take apart. You only really need the two tools that I showed you here. Now some people are, like I said, you're not going to be able to find this because they don't make it anymore. This is just a cheap wrench from Home Depot, but there are other tools that they make, and PSD does still make a bit driver version of this tool. I prefer, and you'll see this more in the reassembly video, this handle gives you really good purchase and you're very close to where you're working. So I find that you can get a very good purchase and you can make very fine adjustments, as well as if you really need to crank down on something, you can really crank down on whatever it is. But that's that. I'm going to take my rag here. I'll put some alcohol on here, and you can see how nasty it is in there. So you know, like I said, this is probably my favorite Strider. I'm just going to wipe this out. I'm going to wipe all of this. I'm going to clean the tang of the blade here. And you can see this is one that has been used for quite a while. And you can see how those washers have worn away that black oxide finish. But that's not a problem. Actually, that's part of what makes the knife so smooth. You saw before I even took it apart, even though it's filthy, I was able to flick it open and it drops closed whenever you release the lock bar. So that's clean. I'm going to come over here and the same thing, I'm going to clean this portion of the pivot hole. I'm going to clean the lock bar itself, and I'm going to get the face of that lock bar pretty good, and I'm going to come over and get this recessed area here, because sometimes, especially if you lube like I lube will get out into that little area, that recessed area, so I just want to clean it out. The washers here, I'm going to flip this over and just kind of be careful. Let's get my focus back. Be careful not to bend it or anything like that. I'm just going to rub it between my fingers like this. And over here, I'm going to do the same thing. Rub it in between my fingers like this. And I'm also going to clean off the pivot itself, because I will be re-lubricating this as well. So just want to get in there, and again, you can see this is a well-used Strider. You can see how smooth it's been worn. Again, part of the reason why the action is so smooth when the knife is together. So if you don't have a smooth Strider yet, just keep using it. I don't suggest you polish anything on the inside of your Strider or adjust anything, because those are the types of things that can potentially void your warranty. So I usually steer clear of those types of things. So once that's cleaned off, we have all of our parts. I don't need to clean these screws, but we've got all of our parts here and ready to go back together. Like I said, in my next video, I'll show you the reassembly and my method for lubricating the knife. Catch you in the next video.